Since '06, we've been able to scale our business times 4.
Wow.
Last year, we hit 25 million in revenue. What is your superpower? And when you're able to figure out what your superpower is, you're also able to understand what your weaknesses are. I think it's very natural for people to want to be better, right? And sometimes we're stuck in a rut, and sometimes we even join companies where there's no guidance, right? Because outside of school, no one's really guiding you to tell you how to be a better employee or how to be a better version of yourself, right? What they'll do is this is how this person used to do it. This is a procedure. You do it that way too.
You know why I love you, Eric? Is because you've got the capability of being able to tell me that's okay that you have a creativity of 1. It's okay if you're a serial killer. We can work with that. That's okay. We can figure it out.
Your strengths is like if you're writing with your dominant hand, and your weaknesses are like you're writing with your non-dominant hand. And it all goes back to stress level management.
Yeah, I've always known that I was good at school. I'm bad at school because of my low attention to detail. I've always known that I was really good at sales. I've always known that I've always been really good with people person. I've always known I'm an optimistic person, very positive. I've always known that I lack a lot of detail. I tend to be not a dirty person, but I tend to be kind of a messy person, because, stuff is here. I lose things all the time. It's just, that's sort of my natural state. I always knew that stuff. But when you see it in front of you,
yeah.
And then, not just when you see it in front of you, but then when you give the assessment to other people, especially people that you're going to be working with. What's up, advocates? And welcome back to another episode of the Claims Game Podcast. We got a good one for you this week. But first, let's just make sure that you understand that we are sponsored. We're sponsored by Fortes Health. Fortes Health is a fantastic company that provides PPE, personal protective equipment. So if you need any kind of masks or any kind of gloves or anything like that, as public adjusters, we are walking into homes on a daily basis. You don't know what kind of things that you're walking into, especially if you work mold stuff too and you do water mitigation. Another fantastic place that you can get a lot of your materials to make sure that you stay protective. Also, because of coronavirus, you want to make sure that you got that mask on to make sure you're not getting any kind of, anything from anywhere else. So if you go on FortesHealth.com, you want to order something, if you put in Vince20, you'll get 20% off. Also, I found out that anything that you buy, it gets donated. It's a nonprofit. It gets donated to nonprofit to help other people out. I don't have all the information with me. I'm sorry, but you'll find it in the description of how it actually helps. That every dollar that is spent, another dollar goes out to different organizations to help. I believe it goes out to different like fire departments and stuff like that. So you'll be helping a lot of people out too. So let's get right to it. In this week's Claims Game Podcast, I'm very excited. And I know I say this every single week. I say it every week. Oh, it's the best one yet. But this one is not only, I feel, one of the best ones, but it's super unique. It's not with a public adjuster. It's not with a water mitigation company. It's not with an attorney. It's actually with someone that I can tell you I consider my business coach, someone who really helps me out in my business, in my hiring, in my making sure that I'm making the proper decisions, that I'm making sure that I'm dedicating my time to where I have to be dedicating it to be as successful as possible. The interview is with Eric Wang. Eric Wang is the president of Ming Wang. It's mingwangnits.com. And basically they're an extremely large clothing company, clothing and apparel. I'm talking like $25 million in sales per year. And I'm looking through just to make sure. Yeah, it's $25 million in revenue. And I'm talking over 50 employees. I think it's over $1 million payroll that they have. So this guy knows what he's talking about. He knows how to build a business from scratch. His parents are Chinese immigrants that came from China. And they were able to build it from where they did. But him and his brother have taken the company to a whole other level. And it's really because of his hiring process is probably one of the most unique things about him. He's got different assessments that he gives to each and every single one of his employees that determines their strengths and their weaknesses. He builds teams based on this so that makes sure that everybody's accounting for different strengths and weaknesses as they do it. So it's a really great interview. The reason why I wanted to have him on is because not only is he my business coach, but he's also a business coach for others. And he's actually starting his own business coaching coaching consulting company. It's something that he's in the works of coming up with. But the reason why I wanted to have him on is because I think it could help you guys as public adjusters or attorneys or whatever it is. Remember, as public adjusters, we are all entrepreneurs. Even if you work for another company, if you're working your claim from beginning to end and you're doing the door knocking and you're doing the networking and everything it takes to build your book of business, you're an entrepreneur. And you're going to have to make sure that you understand your strengths, your weaknesses, to make sure that you're doing the things that are benefiting you to your strengths and maybe just not getting away from some of your weaknesses, right? And maybe hiring someone that could help you with your weaknesses. So the best place to find Eric is going to be on LinkedIn. If you just go Eric Wang on LinkedIn, you will see it. He is the president of Ming Wang Knits, and you could find him there. Message him. Trust me, he told me I can tell you this. Message him if you've got any questions. He's going to be starting up this company very, very soon, and he's going to be helping a lot of other business owners. So catch him now. Catch him now while he's still growing this thing, and I guarantee you he's going to give you some of the best advice. I talk to this guy almost on a daily basis, and he has helped me tremendously take my 3 businesses that I have, hire the proper virtual assistants to make sure that they are benefiting me again in all of my weaknesses so that I can have more time for my strengths, right? Some of my strengths like talking to others and just this commercial claims advocate I've wanted to grow, but it's been harder because I have claims, but now I've got help. So check out this interview. It is badass, okay? It is really awesome. I hope you enjoy it. Eric Wang, Claims Game Podcast. I hope you enjoy it and let me know.
Welcome to the Claims Game Podcast with Vince Perry. Get all the tips you need from insurance claim advocates and professionals and grow your public adjusting career to the next level. And now the commercial claims advocate, Vince Perry.
I want people to understand the reason why I'm interviewing you, even though I've probably already said it at the intro. The reason why I'm interviewing you is because I believe that and because just I've talked to you about this, but I believe every public adjuster, whether having their own company with adjusters under them or even working for another public adjuster, I believe that what I love about the public adjuster industry is that we are all entrepreneurs. That's what I want public adjusters to understand. So even if you're working for a company and you're getting a specific percentage, if you're in charge of your whole claim from beginning to end, and you're the one dealing with the clients, you're the one going door to door, you're the one paying for your little door slips to put all over, you're the one meeting the people so that you can get the referrals and building relationships with the other people in your industry so that they could refer you. Those are all the things that an entrepreneur does. And I always wanted to tell people that that's exactly what we are as public adjusters. And I always thought that as well, that even to this day, I do work for Key Biscayne claim adjusters, I handle everything from A to Z, and I've got my own assistants. I've got people that work for me as well, and they are paid by me. But at the end of the day, as public adjusters, we are all entrepreneurs. What I wanted to get to you is, where are you now? So your dad started the business, and I know that it's you and your brother that run the business. And how large, I want people to understand the size of your business before we really start asking you for advice on how we could grow ours.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got to know, I guess, my credentials too, right?
Right.
So we're in the apparel business. We currently manage a few different lines. So Ming Wang is our brand. It's my mom. She was the designer. That was the company we started. We acquired Masuk back in 2013. Masuk at the time was one of our biggest competitors. And they were actually going to close down and file for bankruptcy. And when we realized that, a lot of their weaknesses was our forte. And we reached out to them and we were able to have a partnership. And we've been partnering with them since 2013. We've been in Texas since 2006. Part of the reason why we moved to Texas is we're centrally located in the U.S. before being in Florida. Again, if we get stuff by boat, it's coming into LA, it's getting on a truck, and all the way across the country to Florida, right? So just on importing our goods, we're saving about a week. And again, that's just time. That's not even the cost associated with it. And also for us to ship to all of our customers being centrally located, I can ship anywhere across the U.S. in 3 days or less. Before, when we were in Florida, shipping to California or West Coast, it was a 5-day turnaround, right? So part of the reasons why we moved to Texas, Dallas, DFW specifically. Since '06, we've been able to scale our business times 4. So
wow.
Last year, we hit 25 million in revenue. This year, unfortunately, we are down a little bit due to the current situation. Our apparel is, I would say, business attire. And a lot of, for example, government officials, a lot of people that do seminars that have to be in front of a large crowd, a lot of our clientele are those type of people.
Eric, do me a favor, lower your volume a little bit. I could hear the echo.
Yeah.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So $25 million in revenue.
Yeah.
That's it? Only?
Sorry. Just under 50 employees. We do have a location. Well, we have 50 employees in the DFW location, and we have 8 in the New York office.
What? You have an office in New York? I had no idea.
Yeah, so a lot of our creatives, so a lot of our designers all live out in New York. Reason why is just the recruiting from the New York schools. The top 2 fashion schools are FIT and Parsons. So just the amount of talent that comes out of there, we're kind of work ready. We've brought people from other schools, and just the learning curve was just a little longer, right? So when we realized that, we kind of just kept all of our designers in New York.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry if you hear
the mowing the lawn.
Cutting the lawn right now.
That's okay. That's okay.
I apologize if that's what you're getting.
No, that's okay. So one thing that I have realized that you are very, very good at is your ability to hire the right people. I came to you, if you remember, I went with Mike, our friend Mike. We went to go to see the Dolphins against the Cowboys, and we were waiting for Mike, and we hadn't talked in a while. And I was telling you about my plans and what I want to do, and I needed an assistant real bad because I was overwhelmed with my claims, and I had other ideas like an Amazon store that I've got and this commercial claims advocate podcast and all that. And I'm like, man, I'm just overwhelmed. I can't do it. And I know that there's a way that I could get these claims to just sort of work themselves if I hired the right person. And then you started telling me about your assessments and hiring a virtual assistant and making sure that you hire the right people to basically be strong where you are weak, right? So we'll get into some of these things, but I want you to explain it first. But for example, I am very low attention to detail, which could be problematic in claims, even though I was able to I was able to handle it myself for so long. So you always told me you need to find somebody who is high attention to detail. So what are some of the things before we get into an actual chart that you think are very important when hiring somebody, and it's just some of the stuff that you've been able to accomplish over the last several years?
Mm-hmm. Before I even go into, I guess, what I think is important about hiring, I'm going to just talk a little bit about, I guess, why I think the way that I think. All right. There's a pretty smart man by the name of Albert Einstein. You might have heard of him.
Oh, yeah, he's whatever.
But he has a quote. I'm probably not word for word, but he pretty much says everyone is a genius, right? But if you judge a fish on how well it climbs, that fish is going to feel dumb forever.
Awesome. Right? Very interesting.
So same philosophy goes into every single human, right? We all have specific superpowers, right? The thing is that we don't know what these talents are until, honestly, we unleash them. Have you ever wondered to yourself, why am I good at certain things? Why do certain things come a little bit easier? And certain things are very difficult. And then you look at someone else and man, this person does it so easily. It's so natural, right? Or even like a podcast. You watch specific people. Honestly, I watch you and I'm like, man, you make it look so easy, right? It's because we honestly are born with certain talents, right? And then when we were able to identify these talents and able to put knowledge, time, and work at it, these talents actually become strengths, right? Which is ultimately the goal. Again, we're only one person, and if you're talking about like our skill set, it's not a full circle. There's a lot of ups and downs on what we're capable of, right? And the beauty of having a team and having multiple people with a similar goal is that it kind of rounds everything out, right? When I look for my team members and I look for people that work closely with me, I don't need a lot of people exactly like me, right? Because if I feel confident and I'm strong at something, I probably don't need a lot of help in that one area. But there's a lot of weaknesses that I have, and there's a lot of, honestly, my chart is similar to yours, where I am also low attention to detail, right? So I know when there's detailed type responsibilities, I have people on my team that double check me, or that I even have helping me with it, right? The benefit of having low attention to detail, because some people are like, oh man, not having attention to detail is like, that's a horrible trait.
Right.
But there's also beauty and benefits of having a low D, right? People like us, we're out of the box thinkers, right? We live in the gray area. You know, like people with high attention to detail, they're very black and white. I want my accountant to be a high D. I want him to be black and white, right? But again, life isn't always like that. Business isn't always black and white. There's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of challenges that you probably have never had to deal with before, right? And honestly, that's where someone with a lower D could actually, I would say, benefit, right? You're going to have out of the box type ideas to fix this problem, right? So the main thing is self-awareness, understanding what makes you special. What is your superpower? That's kind of like what I always tell you. I'm like, what is your superpower? And when you're able to figure out what your superpower is, you're also able to understand what your weaknesses are. And then at that point, you're able to plug in the hole, right? So the conventional way of thinking is, if you keep on working on your weaknesses, you're going to succeed, right? But I think that's the furthest thing from the truth. When you focus on your strength, that's actually when you succeed. When you focus on your weaknesses, that just prevents you from failing, right?
Interesting.
So when you have someone, for example, I work very closely with someone in my organization called Michael, right? When I was recruiting and trying to find this person, I knew specifically the type of personality that I wanted, right? Because I understand myself. And once I did, and I was able to share, hey, this is what I'm good at. These are my pain points. And I realized my pain points is stuff that he not only doesn't mind doing, but it gives him energy, right? Huh. And honestly, it's a beautiful partnership, right? Like I inspire him because I'm constantly giving him ownership, right? And ultimately, that's, I think, what most people want. Most people won't leave a specific job solely on compensation, right? They want to feel important, they want to be appreciated, and they want to know how they're going to scale. I think it's very natural for people to want to be better, right? And sometimes we're stuck in a rut, and sometimes we even join companies where there's no guidance, right? Because outside of school, like no one's really guiding you to tell you like how to be a better employee or how to be a better version of yourself, right? What they'll do is say, oh, this is how this person used to do it. This is a procedure. You do it that way too. But again, everyone is different. We're very complex human beings, right? The way that I learn and the way that someone else learns can be very different too, right? So we need to put all of that into consideration. And I think when we do, that's when we truly are able to build our team, right? Because for example, for Michael, the one that I work closely with, again, I know how he likes to communicate, right? And how do I know that? By these assessments and starting to understand what everything means, and honestly understanding myself as well. Again, self-reflection is extremely, extremely important.
Right. So when you first told me about this, the first thing you wanted me to do was take one myself, and you had me I took 2 out of the 3, but there's 3 of them that I know that you do a lot. One of them is called the Culture Index, and the Culture Index to me, it's my favorite one, to be honest. It's actually quite simple. It's difficult to read. I'm going to share mine now. So we have to try our best because there's also people that listen to this through podcast form. So we're going to have to try our best. I'm going to do my best to try to just show people what we're looking at. But basically what we've got, if you could just give me a second. I just need to share this screen if I can, but now I can't remember how to do it. Okay, share screen. All right. Can you see it?
Yep. I see your screen.
Okay. And we should get here, and we should get here. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so what we're looking at is a chart. It's got my name on the top, Vince Perry, and then we've got like survey traits, and it's a chart that basically across the top, it goes 0 through 10, and then across the left, so I guess, oh my goodness, which is it? Is it the x-axis is going across, right? I don't even know.
Yeah, Y is up and down.
Okay, so across like an x-axis is 0 through 10, and then going down like the y-axis is A, B, C, D, L, and I. So what it shows here, and it's sort of like what we were just talking about before, explain what A, B, C, and D is real quick, and then I could tell people sort of what they're looking at, or I'm going to try to explain what my numbers are in A, B, C, and D. What is A, B, C, and D?
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to back up a little bit. Can you put can I see more of the report?
Oh, I don't know what.
Scroll up a little bit or scroll down, I guess. All right. So when you're looking at the report for the people that are listening on podcasts right now, you see two different charts. All right. The top chart is what they say is your natural state. And the goal is to be in your natural state as much as you can. The bottom one is your job behavior. It's who you feel like you need to be in your role. So I had Vince take this a while ago. But ultimately what I'm trying to do is actually get him to be more like his natural state, which is his top chart. Okay. And I'll explaining what all of this means. So when you're reading this, everything is relative to the red line. All right. There's a red line that's on Vince's chart. It's in between the 5 and the 6. This red line represents the norm line. So everyone that's taken this assessment in the past, it kind of represents this norm line. Right. So everything is either, if it's on the right side, you're considered high. If you're on the left side, you're considered low. How far it is from the norm line also, I guess it is a difference on how exaggerated that specific trait is. Okay. So A is autonomy. B is social need and want. C is pace and patience. D is attention to detail.
Okay, explain it. Explain it like in layman's terms, like for me.
Okay, so A, think about it as your gas pedal. All right. People with very high A, they want to win, right? They're typically very competitive, and they always see scale. They always want to push forward. Okay, so that's A, autonomy. B, social need and want. The best example I can give is the higher the B is, the more, let's just say at work, the more social events there are, the higher the B, the more likely the high B person would be going to these social events. The lower the B, the less likely they would be going to. So for example, my brother's a very low B. He's a 5-click low B, right? If he's going to a social event, he usually has a objective, or it's very intentional of why he wants to go to this networking event.
Hold on, let me explain real quick, because I tell people all the time and they don't believe me. Vince, you've got a YouTube channel. Vince, you've got a podcast. Vince, you look so natural when you're on TV. Vince, you look so natural when you're on YouTube. And I always try to tell people that I'm actually an introvert, that when I go to a lot of these events and when I'm in a public setting, if I go to a party with Eric, if Eric is the only person that I know, I am not going to speak to much anybody else but Eric. I'm the type of person that I go into a corner of a room with somebody, like the bachelor party. Pretty much the same thing. That's how I am. And if you see on my chart here, my personal behaviors, I'm a low in B because I have my friends, and that's pretty much what I have. But my job behaviors, because I know what this job entails, that if I go to a networking event, I know how to just sort of what I like to call press the play button and then be able to interact and be social as much as I can. So just to explain to people, in my personal chart, my B is low, and in my job behavior chart, my B is high.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's especially also your C is low too, right? Because
what is C?
C is pace and patience. So the lower the C, the more you enjoy multitasking, right? So you naturally are a single focus type. Like, in order to get the best version of yourself, give you time to focus on something, and the accuracy of it is going to be higher, right? People with low C, again, they get bored very easily. If you're talking about people who naturally are very good at multitasking, these are usually low C people, right? But I think, because the position that you were in, and prior to you having a lot of the help that you've been getting, is that you had to juggle all of these things. You really did have to multitask so many different things, right? So from the beginning, when I saw this, that was actually one of the things that I wanted to help you change, right? To be able to give you the time to be able to focus on a specific project, because your ability to scale that project will significantly be better if you had the time and you didn't have so many distractions pulling you in every different way.
But so the goal here is to try to get to my natural state. So if that were the case, the goal would be to, in my job behavior, to be able to focus on one thing at a time, which I believe through the hiring process, that's actually helped a lot.
No, absolutely. Right. Because things still got to get done. Right. The difference now is that the help that you brought in is able to do those things. And you have more free time to honestly focus on other parts of your business that needs to grow.
Right.
Right. A lot of times, especially as entrepreneurs, again, we're very passionate about it. And then especially with visionaries, your mindset is like, oh, if you want to do it right, you have to do it yourself. Right. But that actually slows you down when you're trying to scale something. Right.
Right.
Our goal should be progress, not perfection. That's the main thing. Most people want perfection, but in reality, what is perfection? Right. There's a lot of things that we can do to push the envelope forward and to scale our business that does not require perfection. Right. So as entrepreneurs, I think that's a very important mindset to have, is that you always have to focus on progress and not perfection, especially if your personality trait is a high D.
All right.
So I said A was your gas, D is your brake. So people very, very high D, very, very high attention to detail. Again, black and white, right? What's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. There is no gray area in between. You want your accountant, high attention to detail, right?
Or your bookkeeper.
So people with very high D, again, they want perfection, and sometimes it really hinders their ability to grow because they're so focused on the detail.
Gotcha.
And sometimes, for example, if you do know that about your personality, it goes back into a team, all right? Or goes back into having mentors of knowing their personality. And if you know yours, be like, let's just say I was a very high D and I had a problem of constantly trying to make everything perfect. I need to find someone that has a high A and a lower D to at least give me other perspective, right? And to challenge me and to get me to think differently.
What about L and I?
L and I, so L stands for logic. It's weird wording because I think everyone has logic, right? And it's not like someone's logic is that much higher. The way that Culture Index reads this L is you base your emotion. So the higher the L is, you base your emotions more on logic than feeling. All right. I'll give you an example. My brother is a very low L. People that people that are very low L, they wear their heart on their sleeve. When my brother's angry, everyone knows about it. When my brother's happy, everyone knows about it. There is no poker face, right? So the higher the L is, the more of a poker face you have. There actually a lot of these assessments, there isn't any pass fail, right? Like this is our personality. It's not like you have a good personality or a bad personality. It's just your personality on how you can function within a work organization, right?
Gotcha.
So again, if I know someone that is a low L and it seems like, man, this person's always unhappy, this person's always, causing drama. It's not that they're trying to cause drama. It's their personality, right? They wear their heart on their sleeves. They're going to express everything that they feel, especially if this person's a high B and a low L. You're going to get someone that's very vocal about their feelings. And again, it's important for a manager to understand these things because it teaches me or it gives me a idea of how to communicate, to my team member and how to inspire them. I's ingenuity, sheer out of the box creativity.
Wow, I got none of that.
Well, yeah, I have one.
I thought I was more than that.
I can't even have an I of 0. I starts at 1, so
awesome.
Yeah, you're pretty low high. But again, it's not creativity. Like a lot of people that are really good at art and crafty, they kind of perceive, I'm very creative, right? That's not how Culture Index describes this type of creativity or ingenuity. This is extremely out of the box. So, for example, Like I have a curtain, right? And let's just say there's a stain on that curtain. Someone that's extremely creative, they're like, man, I'm going to create some type of fabric that is going to be like dirt resistant, right? It'll be that far out there. As I would say, most people would probably think, oh man, I wonder what type of cleaner I can buy to clean this stain off of my curtain, right? So completely out of the box. Walt Disney, instead of seeing a mouse and them living in an environment, he saw an amusement park. He saw a character. He saw a character that did specific things. Extremely out of the box creative, right? Funny story is that our head fashion designer, you think fashion designer, extremely creative. She actually also has an eye of one. So obviously when she took this, she freaked out. She was like, oh my gosh, I'm a fashion designer. How can I not have any creativity? But it's not that type of creativity. And especially with our product, our line isn't the fashion line that you see like in like a Paris runway show where you're like, man, who actually wears this stuff, right? Like those type of designers probably do have a very high eye. But honestly, the way that we design is almost analytical. A lot of our designs and our best sellers are based off of data. We look and see what our best performers were. We look at the silhouette, we look at the color, the sleeve length, and based off of data is actually how we create the line. Obviously, there's some creativity of changing colors, changing the body, and changing the knit and stuff like that. But I would say our designers are more, I guess, analytical than I would say sheer creativeness, right? So that's why I think
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about you. All those that are listening over here. I have an eye, a creativity of 1. Okay? It's of 1. Your designer is 1. You know why I love you, Eric? Is because you've got the capability of being able to tell me that's okay that you have a creativity of 1. That doesn't. It's okay if you're a serial killer. We could work with that. That's okay. We could figure it out. That's the beauty about speaking to you, and this is why I love calling you and talking to you and getting feedback, because you're able to say, I could say almost anything and be like, man, I really screwed this one up, Eric, and you could be like, no, that's okay, because what you did was this, and based on your personality, that's going to actually help you, and you could use that to your advantage. Our friend called you the other day, and he goes, I already heard this story, and he goes, man, I'm just really lazy. And you're just like, that's okay, because it's okay. You need to learn how to work smarter, not harder. So it's okay to be lazy, to use that to your advantage to actually get more work done. How the hell do you do that?
Honestly, it's very simple, right? Is to realize that we're not perfect and that we need to stop trying to be perfect, right? We are who we are. Honestly, it is you have to swallow your pride.
And nobody's perfect.
Exactly. And honestly, I think the moment you realize that, you're almost, I guess, okay with not being great at everything.
Invincible. Right? You could,
but like honestly, for me, and a lot of the things that I try to push for, even within my own organization, is be happy, right? A lot of people talk about work-life balance. My philosophy is work-life integration, right? If you're able to achieve that, think about the amount of happiness that you can have. Like I would honestly say, what I do right now, I will do to the day that I die, right? Because I love it. I love talking to you. Like when I give you advice and you actually do it and you scale from it and it's able to help you, honestly, that gives me energy, right? And when I have energy, what happens? It makes me want to do more of it, right? And it also makes me happy.
It also gives you more energy in your personal life too. Like when you're not exhausting yourself because you've hired the right people, for instance, or you've hired the right people to help you focus on what you actually enjoy focusing on. You're not putting all that negative effort. Not negative, but you're not just putting all that exhausting energy into your work. And then what happens, I'm sure anybody listening could understand it. It affects your home life. And I can tell you, over the last year, since we really started communicating and you've been helping me with my business and my hiring and all that stuff, if Annabelle was sitting right here, she would tell you, she can see the difference. She could see the less stress that I've got, just because I know I've got, shout out to Tammy, I know I've got Tammy helping me out. I know I've got, shout out to Milan, the Serbian assassin. He's helping me out with the social media. Like, I don't have to go out there and post 3 times a day. I don't have to follow up with the insurance company myself every single week. I've now been able to take all that exhaustion energy that, I didn't really want to be doing because I wanted to be focusing on other things. And now I'm focusing on things that I freaking love. And I'm having so much fun doing it. And like I said, Annabelle, by the way, is my wife, everybody. She would, if she was sitting right here, she would tell you the exact same thing.
And honestly, I have the similar experience, right? So funny thing is, when I first took the culture index assessment, my job behavior was actually my brother's chart.
No.
I needed to be my brother. My brother's 5 years older than me. So, he's the bigger brother. But I always felt I needed to be him. And I always felt growing up that I felt short. And again, my brother is a very, very smart man, valedictorian, never really had to study. So I thought I didn't have to study and I could still get the same type of accolades, which ended up being not the case.
You and me are so alike. That's why we get along.
I needed to be him, right? And again, I always fell short, right? So imagine growing up and having that type of mentality. And then when I took this assessment, it was like an eye-opener, not only for me, but also for my brother, because he probably had some expectation of like, oh, you need to be doing it this way. And same thing for my dad. My dad and my brother actually have very similar type personalities. So for both of them, I was kind of always in this position where I couldn't live up to their expectation, right? But I always believed I had certain skill sets and that I had value. And ever since I was young, I've always been a people's person, and I've always pushed for a team and the importance of team. My dad and my brother, visionaries, they're very good and very confident in a lot of different things. So their whole philosophy is like, you do it right, do it yourself type mentality, right? But honestly, our company wasn't able to scale until we were able to marry the 2 strengths together.
The 2 strengths, right?
So again, my brother's always been good at scale, but it was tough for retention, right? Happiness and getting other people to be at the same level and to have that type of passion and ownership over their responsibility, right? So when I was able to achieve that, again, that's when our business really, really started growing. And that became my main focus is how do I get teams to work together and have synergy throughout our organization, right?
Let me ask you.
Brother started seeing the benefit of it and he became confident. And honestly, anything that deals with personnel, my brother never questions and he always comes to me for advice. And whenever it's problem solving and scalability, I do the same thing with him. I ask him and he's my sounding board, right? And ultimately, I listen to him 9 out of 10 times when it comes to that because he usually makes a lot of sense whenever I'm picking his brain, right? So again, sorry, go ahead.
No, let me ask you a question. Can you say, I know you've studied these charts time and time again. You've got 50 employees and each of them have taken this chart, correct? Especially, and the other chart that we have. Could you say, since this is basically a podcast for public adjusters and attorneys as well that listen to this, could you say that most successful public adjusters would have similar charts? Or not at all? Not necessarily?
Not necessarily at all. Like I said, this isn't a pass or fail, right? The goal is to figure out what your personality is, right? I'm not trying to change your personality. The goal is to figure out how do you succeed with your personality? Because everyone is going to have different struggles and different things that they're naturally good at, right? So part of this self-reflection and part of understanding yourself is to understand what those things are. What am I naturally good at? What gives me energy? What should I be focusing on all the time, right? And what are the parts where are my weaknesses? They still need to get done. We can't ignore them, right? But who am I going to give it to? Who's going to help me with this, right? So it's more identifying that. So to say that all good public adjusters are a specific type of chart, I mean, I would say it's very false, actually.
Okay.
It's just, if you have similar charts, the way that you actually achieve success might be more similar. Like, for example, if there's someone else with your similar chart, I mean, the way and the path that you go to succeed might be a little bit more similar than someone with a very different personality as you.
And another way that this has helped tremendously. So this is for those of you who've got employees. And again, I can't believe it, but I forgot to give a shout out to my boy Ed. He is a Amazon store manager. One way that I have also now been successful is that I know Milan's, he's actually on watching right now. We did Milan's chart. And how this also helps is that by you explaining to me Tammy's chart, Milan's chart, Ed's chart, it helps me know what their strengths and weaknesses are, what their likes and dislikes are. And I try to also make sure that they're working in an environment that feeds their strengths and that they have, the same way that I'm looking to try to find others to cover the stuff that I don't want to do or I'm not good at. I'm actually, even as the business owner, I'm trying to do the same for my employees. And I think that's fascinating.
Absolutely.
And putting them in positions that they're going to thrive, they're going to succeed, and they're going to be, like you said, happy.
Yeah. Look, close to 70%, I think the exact number is like 67% of people are not extremely happy and engaged in what they do. And a big part of that is honestly being appreciated and seeing the impacts of the work that they're doing. Right. So I think it's up to managers and it's up to business owners to honestly paint this picture for them of like what their skill set is and what they can do to help the company. Right. I use these assessments. Yes, I use them a lot on the onboarding process when we're looking and recruiting for new team members. But that's literally the tip of the iceberg of what these tools are. I mean, I think the true beauty of understanding these assessments is actually in your workplace and understanding your team, right? Usually if you go through a training with me, the first thing is self-reflection. You have to understand yourself before you can understand anyone else's personality and knowing how to push them, right? So number one is self-reflection. And number two is start understanding what your teammates' personalities are like. Kind of like what you talked about, like how do you inspire them? How do you motivate them? The way that you talk to Milan and the way you talk to Tammy will probably have to be different because, again, they get excited about different things, right? And the more that you know about them, the more that you can kind of cater to that, right? And I feel like as a manager and as a leader, that's part of our responsibility. Part of our responsibility is to make it engaging and make it fun for our team, and the reason why I think they work so hard for you is because you do that for them, like you empower them, you let them know like, hey, this is your business too. We're in this together.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And again, people, that's very natural for us. We want to be in a group, that it's a very natural tendency for us to be that way. So if we can do that and utilize it in a good way, I mean, it makes everyone happy.
That goes back to the whole mentor thing. I tell people all the time, like, don't do this yourself. Because, I think you're right. We all tendency that we want to be in like a group, even if it's just one other person or one or two other people, but it's just nice. It's nice to not have to do all this crap on your own. Real quick, let's try to do it. I guess, let's see if we can get through it real fast. Just give me like an explanation. I'm going to share the screen again. I'm going to show people what we're looking at, and we're going to talk about the Strength Finder. So let me do this complicated process for me of sharing the screen. I'm going to make sure that I tell people that this is going to be a much better podcast on YouTube than on everything else. All right. You people are knowing way too much about me today. So these are the Clifton Strengths. These are your Clifton Strengths 34 results. I tell a lot of people about this. Shout out to my buddy Randolph. I told him about this too. He's actually a life coach, and I told him this would be pretty cool. So I guess without having to read through this, what I'm looking at here is basically a top 10 of my strengths, and then basically a top, I'd say, a top 24 of navigate. I know from what you've explained to me real quick, and you'll get into the details, but from what you've explained to me real quick is that it's basically number 1 being your strongest, number 34 being your weakest. Number 1 being your strongest, that you could just get better at. This is what you know. Number 34, that maybe things that you could to watch out for. Like your bottom 10, there's things to watch out for, to be aware of, so that you don't sort of fall into some of these traps. But you can see the screen, right? Okay, so I guess let's explain my top 5, and then however else you want to explain it.
Okay. To give everyone a little bit more context and I guess understanding of the philosophy behind Strength Finder. So an exercise that I usually will ask everyone to do, I'll ask them to write their name with a non-dominant hand, right? So they'll write their name down, and I'll ask them, how do you feel? They'll say, oh, it feels weird. It felt difficult. I'm like, all right, now do the same exact thing, but write it with your dominant hand. They'll do it. I'll ask them, how does that feel? It feels natural. It feels easy, right? That's kind of the philosophy how Gallup Strength Finder sees their strengths compared to their weaknesses, right? Your strengths is like if you're writing with your dominant hand, and your weaknesses are like you're writing with your non-dominant hand. And it all goes back to stress level management, right? So again, I asked you to write your name. I could probably read what you wrote. It was probably a little sloppy, but again, I can read it, right? So our weakness is kind of the same thing. With Vince, with you having low discipline and mood, it doesn't mean that you don't have any. It's just, it's a little bit more challenging for you to be naturally good at those things, right? So again, going back to stress level, right? I asked you to write your name. That's not going to cause you very much stress. What if I asked you to write a paragraph? What if I asked you to write a page? What if I asked you to write a book, right? The longer it gets, the more stress it kind of adds on, right? So again, the whole philosophy is work towards your strengths and manage your weaknesses. So part of the reason why I search for people that have very different skill sets than me, again, is so I can constantly be focusing on the things that I'm good at, right? I talked a little bit about how conventionally, we think that, if we want to succeed, we got to focus on the weaknesses, right? So Strength Finder is actually the one that is saying like that, actually the complete opposite, right? Keep on pushing towards your strengths, because your ability to succeed using your strengths is going to be a lot greater, right? I mean, even if you think about school, like growing up, like if you were a straight A student and you got a C in PE or something like that, everyone's like, oh my gosh, like what happened in PE? Like you have to study harder. You got to do this, you got to do that to try to get that up. As opposed to saying like, oh man, you're really good at math and science. Like you should probably be taking these classes so you can elevate your math and science, right? So the Strength Finder philosophy is kind of, again, pushing towards your strengths, right? So yes, reading the actual chart 1 through 10 is supposedly your strengths. Again, I think we're extremely complex people, right? Like we're not all built the same. Usually when I'm going through this exercise, I'll tell people, if you feel like your strengths actually stop at 14, draw the line at 14, right? And the goal is to figure out, one, understanding what the meaning of these strengths are, and tying everyday examples of how you are firing in these strengths, right? That's how you're able to understand it. And that's how you're able to, find what your weaknesses are, and to be able to find solutions and help to kind of cover those things.
I like how in the description, like for instance, that we're in harmony here, it'll tell you sort of what it means. And then my favorite is at the end when it sort of tells you why you succeed
Blind
using
spots.
harmony and the blind spots. I think that's kind of cool. So my number one, guys, is harmony. And the blind spot, well, I guess real quick, for harmony is you look for consensus. You don't enjoy conflict. Rather, you seek for areas of agreement. Totally true. And then watch out for my blind spot, which is in your desire to move conversations toward practical and common sense decisions, you may frustrate those who want to share broader ideas and opinions. Allow others to express their full ideas before bringing them back to the task at hand. You may instinctively downplay confrontational situations and try to suppress them from openly airing their ideas and emotions. Recognize and accept that there will be times when conflict is inevitable, and that some people will reveal it. I'll tell, if Milan is listening right now, he's probably laughing, because this one here, in your desire to move conversations forward, you may frustrate those who want to share broader ideas. He's the broader idea guy, that's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, Milan, if you're listening, I mean, you should definitely look at this and learn about Vince too.
Oh man, I'm screwed now.
But yeah, no, absolutely. Blind spots. That's one of my favorite things too, right? I'll talk about like how you can self-reflect with these things, but these technically aren't strengths yet, right? They're talents. Ever wonder when you're a little kid, like, why am I good at certain things? Because you're talented in certain areas. You probably have seen a lot of these type of strengths and talents from when you were a child, right? Like you've probably always been highly harmonious or very high positivity. It's not something that you just adopted within the last few years. So,
you were saying
on that one.
What up? Should we get another drink?
Or maybe I should stop.
Look,
Asian flush yet? Hopefully, I don't have the Asian glow yet.
Look, it's fantastic. We're gonna keep going. We're not done yet. So, but it's just really remarkable because, as self-aware as I want to say that I am, which I did have a nice great awakening experience that I shared with Randolph on his podcast, really gave me a lot of self-awareness of who I am, the kind of person that I want to be, my mission for the rest of my life, and all that stuff. Like, I know why I'm here on this earth. I know what I want to do. I know what I want to accomplish. But the assessments that you give, they just break it down to a much more it's just a much more base level and a much more better understanding of just like specific things about your personality,
For me, honestly, it was validation, right? Like I always
right.
I had certain things that I felt like I was good at.
Yeah.
Right. And again, using scientific data, like it's almost telling me, look, you really are this way.
Right.
So all of those feelings that I had before, again, this is just validation that I really am. And it's almost giving me like a free pass of, look, be yourself, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You just need to make sure that you have a lot of weaknesses too. And you need to make sure that you have to cover that.
Yeah, I've always known that I was good at school. I'm bad at school because of my low attention to detail. I've always known that I was really good at sales. I've always known that I've always been really good with people person. I've always known I'm an optimistic person, very positive. I've always known that I lack a lot of detail. Like I tend to be not a dirty person, but I tend to be kind of a messy person, because, stuff is here. I lose things all the time. It's just, that's sort of my natural state. I always knew that stuff. But when you see it in front of you,
yeah.
And then not just when you see it in front of you, but then when you give the assessment to other people, especially people that you're going to be working with, it really puts things into perspective. Like when we had the first hire, remember?
Yeah.
Didn't work out, but she was a rock star. And that was really strictly based on, remember, we narrowed it down to 2 people, right? And we were like, and you just kept telling me, like, I think this is the one. This is the one. And she was a rock star. It ended up not working out because of other reasons. No big deal. But, it's just amazing how the assessment really brings out everybody's personality, their strengths, their weaknesses. Yeah. And if you could really find, I didn't believe you when you told me you could find the perfect person that's going to make you happy, less stressed, take away all the things that you don't want. I swear I did not believe you. I just thought I need to find somebody to help me. Let's make sure that we work it out. I'll train them, teach them how to do it, and then they'll get it. You can do that to anybody, but it all goes down to the harmonious thing that everybody needs to be sort of happy with what they're doing. So I could train anybody, but if their personality is not attention to detail and they don't want to be doing what they're doing, it's not going to matter how much I train them because they're just going to end up quitting. And that's what you don't want. You don't want them.
Absolutely. No, because in order for you to be happy, you need to fill certain voids that where your weaknesses are, right? And if you're bringing someone in that it's also their weakness, of course they're not going to be happy. Right. But when you're able to find that marriage, and I believe even the first one that didn't work out, like I kind of told you, what are some things to look out for? And what are some things that potentially, if this person did leave, what the reasons would be. Right. And again, I mean, it didn't change the outcome, but at least, again, you're cognizant of it, you're aware of it. And because of it, we're able to make a pretty quick adjustment, and we brought on someone else.
I think it's good for people to understand that, you're not going to hit a home run every time either. Even the second one, remember we have the second assistant, didn't work out well, but also I think it's important to cut ties as soon as possible as well. What was I going to say?
That was something hard for you.
Oh, I'm terrible at that. I'm not good at breakups.
Yeah. No, that was really hard for you, but I do remember,
you knew it
the first time around. I'm probably like a month, like
you knew it
longer than I was kind of pushing you to do. because I knew that once you found that person, the amount of freedom that you would feel, right? And again, it's a beautiful thing. I'm an example of it, right? Like when I was able to let go of certain things, everything became better for me. Right?
Guys,
like
I want
literally like the stress.
I want people to understand that Eric here has a $25 million revenue company, 50 employees. It's a large company, and I'm saying almost by like 90% of the time that I call this guy, he's able to take the time, answer his phone, and take the time to talk to me. I'm not talking just for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm talking about for 30, 45 minutes, an hour, pretty often. And it's because he's put so many people in their proper place where they thrive, and him himself in his own place where he thrives, that he's able to have the time to do the things that he likes. Which leads me to what is it that you have been telling me about now? And I don't know, honestly. I'm really asking you this pretty much for the first time, just in I guess in your best detail that you can, some of your goals that you want now, because you could see the impact that you're having. You have had a huge impact on me, Eric. Like it's helped a lot. Not just bouncing ideas as a mentor, but really being able to put together a staff that I have now of the virtual assistants that, again, I'm able to do what I want to do. What is it that you are trying to do now to really sort of, start something a little bit new, something fresh, and really expand your entrepreneurial activities here?
Well, honestly, like through the last few years, I realized how much I actually do enjoy the coaching and the unraveling of understanding yourself.
How many other people have you done this for?
4. So you are one of 4 that I currently do outside of our organization. Obviously, I do this throughout my organization. I have, weekly meetings with all of our managers, and, I've been doing with our organization for the last 4.5 years, almost 5 years.
And have people like me been very receptive to it? Has it been working very well? Have you noticed it's?
Absolutely. I have 4 friends that they're all business owners, and honestly, starting it out, I just wanted to help. Right? They came to me and they told me what all of their stresses were,
and you're like, I got it.
I had similar stresses in my own business, and I essentially would tell them how I ended up solving it, and that's kind of like how it all started. So, what brings me joy is honestly working with you and hearing that honestly you're succeeding and that you're able to be happier doing what you're doing. That brings me a lot of joy, right? And same thing for the other people I work with. Like that's what gives me energy. That's what inspires me to keep on going, is when I feel like I'm actually helping out. And if I can get someone to realize like, oh man, I never felt like I could feel this way, or I could feel this free, right? Again, that's an amazing feeling to have, that I was able to affect someone in that way. And that's also within my organization, like what brings me the most proud if someone comes to me, man, like I love working here. Right? Like this,
that's
like,
awesome.
This is, like I never thought that I would be part of a company that I would be this excited to come into, right? Again, talking about energy and like what feeds me and like what keeps me going. That type of mentality and that type of interaction is what keeps me going. So actually you inspired me to actually do more of this. And luckily, because of how good my team is, I actually have more time and I'm able to focus a little bit more on these type of coaching. If I'm able to, again, inspire someone else younger than me, it doesn't even have to be younger than me, but I don't know. I just wish when I was in my 20s, I had someone to give me this same type of knowledge, right? So if I'm able to provide that and provide that type of impact where I can get them to understand what their superpower is at a very young age, like in their 20s, like, again, you're saving years of stress and unhappiness, like if we're able to do that, right? So again, I think it's extremely important for people going into the workforce right now to really be able to understand your personality and have that ability to self-reflect.
Dude, I'm with you, man. I get phone calls every day, man. Every single day. I get a handful of phone calls from public adjusters asking questions and stuff like that. And to hear their voice of gratitude, when they get that, like, oh man, thank you so much. Wow, that really helped. Hey, when you told me this to do this and you told me that, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just saying, like, it's just that their sense of gratitude gives me so much gratitude and so much like gratification. And then Milan one time told me, he's gonna be laughing now. We had a little heart to heart a few weeks ago, and he's just like, "Thanks for making it fun." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Exactly. That's all it is."
That's part of your superpower, man.
Nice superpower. Yeah, you and the superpower. We all got superpowers. That's what I love about talking to you, because you're always gonna make me feel good.
Yeah, man, we really do. And honestly, like, I have 3 little kids, and it's crazy how different they are, and it's crazy how I need to motivate them differently, you know. And again,
Right.
Same parents, or you say genetically, you know, they're almost the same, but personality-wise, they're so different, right? And honestly, that's another thing. I'm so happy that I understand what I understand about personalities. Is I think it's made me a better parent, right? Like, I'm not putting all my kids in one box. I understand that they all have different triggers, you know, and it's crazy to see, like, the differences between them.
I have an idea. You need to write a children's book.
Children's book. Hey, I was really good at poetry when I was younger.
Not poetry. I don't know if you should write poetry. But okay,
Really
so
good at rhyming.
let's talk about it here. Come on, vent it out. Let's say I want to hear what's going on in your brain. What are your plans? What are some of your ideas that you have with some of this consulting stuff? I'm gonna put you on the spot. What are just some of the stuff that you've thought about? Don't worry, there's only like 3 people listening. It's okay.
All right. Honestly, it's all very new, and actually, this past week I kind of ramped it up. But my goal is to have a website out by the end of this week. It's mainly to just have a visual of what these assessments are, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what they all do. But ultimately, I want to be able to provide these assessments to everybody, so they at least have the results, right? And then be able to sit down with them, and for them to honestly ask me any questions to help them figure out what their best self is. That's my ultimate goal, right? Being able to show Vince, hey, Vince, what is your best self? What does that look like? Right. And for you to be comfortable with that, and to continuously be that version of yourself. Right. So that's one of my goals, is that I want to be able to share this knowledge that I've been accruing over the last 6 years. Right. And it's been a big life changer for me. So
I haven't told anybody this on the podcast yet. I have not given this advice to anybody on the podcast yet. You need to start a podcast.
I don't know about that.
Boom. Not a YouTube channel.
I
No.
can maybe be a reoccurring guest like every few months.
Not a YouTube channel. You don't have to have your face in front of the camera. It doesn't have to be every day. You've got so much to talk about, and you describe it very eloquently. You could be helping business people all over the world. You really can. You don't have to have any guests either. I mean, you could have guests if you want, but I feel like you could just like look at a chart, like a random chart, and you could really start talking about, or you could just, I'm sure you've got so many stories, and you've got my story and you got other stories. You could just start talking about different personalities, hiring process. Man, I'm sure Milan's going to agree with this one. You got to do it, man. If you could start a podcast, I'm telling you, you could get a pretty large following. I think it'd be very successful.
I don't know. Maybe we'll sit down with Milan and we can brainstorm after this.
Yeah,
But it hasn't been really on my radar, but
I think I've got it. I've got enough brainstorming going on with poor Milan. I'm overworking that guy. The Serbian, I call him Serbian assassin.
Hasn't really been in my thoughts, you know.
It's easy, dude. Look, you buy one of these things. Okay, I think it was like $300. So it wasn't cheap, but it works great. It comes with this thing, right?
Well, that's fancy,
dude. And we're doing it we're doing here because we do YouTube too, but you don't have to do YouTube. I don't know if you saw it, but I think it was episode 2 or 3. I interviewed Randolph Love. He's super cool cat, man. I think you'd really like him. He's very, very big on education. He now is a certified life coach. So shout out to him, Entrepreneurs podcast. And he started his own podcast as well. And he's got all kinds of ideas to really grow that and to grow his life coaching business as well. And it's like, I think you can do the same. You've got so much information and so much experience when it comes to this stuff.
No, thank you. No, I really put some deeper thought and see if we get a game plan to actually make it come to fruition, you know. But Absolutely. But I'd be more than happy to jump back on here and be part of your podcast.
Yeah. Well, we got a long way to go. We're still trying to grow this thing, but it's fun. I'll tell you that. It's really fun. I'm always my favorite part of this thing is the podcast. I like to do the podcast. It's fun. I get to talk to people. I get to talk to my friends and stuff, and it works out pretty well. All right, man.
Well, you're doing a great job, man. I've told you from the beginning. I mean, I don't know a lot about claim adjustment or public adjusters, but again, you have a natural ability to engage people. So, I mean, when you told me to jump on, I was a little nervous that I was gonna, probably be boring for your audience.
No, I can't believe you've been standing up the whole time.
Yeah, no, it makes me. I don't know. I sit down a lot in front of a computer, so anytime I have a chance to stand up, I try to. So.
Do you give your wife a personality assessment?
Absolutely. I wish I knew it. I wish I knew it before I married. But no, honestly, I'm not even joking. It really has helped our relationship, right? Like, she understands what my weaknesses are and what just doesn't come naturally. Like, for example, consistency. Out of my strength finder, consistency is my number 34. It's literally the lowest thing. She gets so frustrated with me because when I get home, I put my shoes in different areas all the time. For her, like, she puts it in the same exact spot. But I'm like, I came in through the garage today. I came in through the front door the other day. So I'm going to put them in different areas.
Listen, you could be
it's a very small example to where she now understands how I am and has kind of understand and is living with it because she just understands it's not part of my personality. So
listen,
that's a very small example of how we actually do look at our personalities within the relationship.
You can be consistently inconsistent, Yeah,
I know. And I definitely am that.
We have a question. I don't know who this is. Is it Milan? No, it's Michael. Michael has a question. So
okay.
what makes Ming Wang such a popular brand?
What makes Ming Wang such a popular brand?
That's tough.
Well, we specialize in easy care. We call it investment clothing. So, like I said, a lot of our clients are businesswomen that have to be in front of a crowd or to do seminars and stuff like that. So it's just the ease of our line, and a lot of it is the yarn that we have, right? So it's 100% machine washable. It retains its shape and color. And we are able to, for example, the black that we had in the year 2000 compared to the black that we have right now is going to match exactly the same.
Wow.
Right. So we like to call it investment piecing or creating your closet or investment closet. Right. So again, it's not the fast fashion that is very prevalent nowadays. It's really able to, again, buy a basic and buy a piece and have that piece for a very long time and buy fashion pieces into the line, so you're able to switch up your look with, let's just say 4 different pieces. You could probably create 12 different looks.
Where is Ming Wang available?
So we're sold throughout Dillard's, Von Maur, Masuk. Our other brand is Neiman Marcus. We're also in Saks, and also a different boutique. We sell over 300 boutiques across the country, and also on our website. So we do have mingwangknits.com and masuk.com. So those are the two websites we're currently running. We are in the process of acquiring new brands. So I don't know, on the next podcast, I might be able to give you a few more brands that they can go and visit and check us out at.
No, I can't wait. It's going to happen again. Is there anything else you want to talk about? How about them Heat?
Sorry?
How about them Heat?
But,
Miami Heat, baby.
Oh, Miami Heat. Absolutely, man. Well, actually, one thing that I did want to say before is that, one, I'm a very big sports fanatic, specifically the Miami Heat and basketball. But I look at an organization.
Oh, yes.
Like a company.
This is good.
Right? So I run company very similar to essentially like any sports organization. Right? And
I know you always talk about the Patriots, but man, the Miami Heat organization, that's crazy. How do they do it?
Absolutely. Honestly, and a lot of it is with leadership, right? I think Pat Riley, whether you're a Heat fan or not, but I think Pat Riley is a great leader. And it goes down when you have an organization that is well ran, they always breed success. Like if you look at baseball, basketball, football, there's some teams that seem to always be in the mix, right?
Think about it. The Yankees, they haven't really done much since Steinbrenner died.
Yeah,
that's
true.
That's something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it just tells you can't just have the brand, you just can't have the name. The people within that organization is extremely important, right? And the leadership that you have is extremely important. Like if you look at the Heat, most people coming into the season probably didn't even think they had a chance to make the playoffs, right? Like you're getting a bunch of rookies, a bunch of young people, but I think the brilliance of Spoelstra and Pat Riley is they really push people to their strength, right? They understood Duncan Robinson is an extremely good three-point shooter, right? Look how many threes he puts up in a game. He wouldn't be able to get his numbers unless his coaches had the trust in him to say, hey, put up this many threes in a game, right?
It's not even that. They lost everybody that every time LeBron goes to a team and then he leaves. It's amazing that within, 5 or 6 years, they were able to make it back to the championship without him.
Yeah.
Culture. Culture.
It really is culture. And I think the biggest reason why the Heat did well this year was because of the culture. And I actually felt like the bubble was like a perfect situation for them. Right?
It helped them, yeah.
And it's like that ability to focus and to not give up. I mean, being in a bubble, you have so many different stressors. And again, no one likes change, right? And what is the bubble? It was change for a lot of these players, right? So again, different people get distracted. That's why certain teams perform very well in the bubble and certain teams kind of fell apart in the bubble.
So you think that's what it is that drastic change really exploited those teams that didn't have that good, I guess, I keep using the word culture, but that good, I guess camaraderie.
Synergy. Huh? Yeah. Synergy.
Yeah, synergy and just like deep-rooted, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Heat, I mean, they're kind of known for their toughness, right? And they're known for their grind, right? And honestly, in the bubble, a lot of it was that grind. Like you had to be able to block out, hey, I have to live in a hotel room for, I don't know, however many hours.
It was like 3 or 4 months. It was crazy.
That you normally would be doing, right? It takes mental toughness. It takes a certain type of personality to be okay with that, and to not only be okay with it, but to thrive in that type of atmosphere, right? I mean, I don't know if you're a big Jimmy Butler fan, but to see what Jimmy Butler brought to the team, I mean, he's been doing that in every organization, but this is the first organization that loved that type of leadership, right? And they allowed Jimmy to be Jimmy.
Well, they
accepted Jimmy for what he is.
Well, the teams used to call Jimmy a cancer, and what Jimmy used to say was like, I'm not a cancer. It's that you guys can't keep up with me. Like, I'm intense, and I work very hard, and I'm 1,000% every single day, and y'all are taking off plays. You don't want to practice hard. You don't want to do all these things. I finally found an organization that it's not just they're suited for me, they're suited for my needs, but they are like they work hard, they dedicate themselves, and it's 100% to winning and all that stuff. And that's why now he's not a cancer anymore. He's the complete opposite. It's like what we've been talking about. Strengths, weaknesses. He found a team that basically were able to, that were just matched his strengths perfectly.
Yeah. No, I mean, the Heat are actually a really good example.
A great example.
But honestly, every organization, like within football, I know you said Patriots, but Patriots, love them or hate them.
I hate them.
Always in the mix.
But you're right. But I hate them. But you're right.
Yeah.
But I hate them.
Part of the reason why I respect them so much is because of that philosophy, right? I know Belichick has a lot of haters. They call him cheap and this and that. But look, he has one focus, and his focus is to win football games, right? And sometimes, yes, I don't agree with his approach to things, but he's created a culture where honestly, look at the receivers in the Patriots, right? All of these no-name receivers end up being like these huge names, and then they get traded and they disappear. Like we never hear about them again, right? Honestly, I think that goes back to the system, right? And it goes back to the organization and how they're ran and how they operate. And it's so crazy how you have a lot of players that what other teams would call as basket cases. For some reason, whenever they go to the Patriots, they start behaving like Randy Moss.
Right.
They start coming. Again, it doesn't happen with everybody, but again, there's a few that start coming out and there's like, oh my gosh, this was the potential that everyone thought you had, and then it came to reality when you were on the Patriots.
Have you? Is that something that you think that you've developed at Ming Wang? Is there like a culture? Is there like a way, or are you still just trying to find the right people? All right, so I guess my question is, are you looking for the right people for the right positions that suit them and suit you, or are you also at a point now where you're also looking for people who are going to fit into your environment, your daily work environment, stuff like that, or is it just all sort of a little bit of everything?
I think it's a little bit of both, because a lot of assessments aren't going to tell you that aspect of it, right? Like they're not going to tell you their toughness and their ability to, be a part of our organization. You have certain things that can highlight and be like, oh, I think this person can, right? But you really don't know. For us, so with Culture Index, there's something called a C job, all right? So before we're doing the hiring, I give every manager and not even the manager, but people part of that team, it's called a C job. So there's questions on what they feel the person that they're bringing in needs to have, the skill sets they need to have, right? So once they do the C job, it'll tell me the type of personality that everyone in the team feels like this person should have. So it kind of narrows down the amount of applicants that I look at. Sometimes when we have a posting, we have literally hundreds of applicants, and it's just not very efficient and worth the time for our HR team to literally go through every single one, right? So one of the things that we do is with this is kind of help filter, right? But you're limiting the type of personality or the types of personality that would be a good fit. And once we narrow that down, I mean, it's a whole nother process, right? Because you got to interview them. You got to know, honestly, if you get along with them, because these assessments do not judge IQ, EQ, moral compass, right? Like you get someone extremely good fit, but if the dude's a crook, I mean, still not a good fit. Right?
Yeah.
So I would say it's a little bit more complicated than just any one way, right? There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of different things that you need to be putting into consideration. Like, again, you got to look at tenure or experience, right? You got to look at education, right? So there's so many different things to look at. And that's part of the reason why we didn't focus on one chart. Like, I know you said you like Culture Index the most, and same thing for me. I love Culture Index. But whenever I did it, I always felt something was missing, right? So that's why we started doing other assessments. That's why we started doing Strength Finder. We started doing something called CCAT, because they all judge different things, right? And we utilize all of them. CCAT is more of like a Wonderlic, so like a sheer IQ test.
Let me show real quick for those of you still listening. And again, if you're listening, you're not going to be able to see this. Let me see here. Share the screen real quick, just to give you guys a quick example of what Eric's, I guess, employee charts look like. This is intense. Can you see it, Eric?
Yeah. So the spreadsheet that Vince has up, that's everyone in our organization. So under chart, that's their Culture Index chart. CCAT is their CCAT score. And then on the right, Strength Finder, it has the link to give me exposure to their full 34, but it also tells me what their top 5 strengths are. If you could, can you click on one of the team
what
tabs? Do you see a team tab on the bottom?
Oh, here?
What's that template thing? Yeah. All right. So this is what I use. So is there one that's filled out? Is there another tab or no? Yeah, there we go. All right. So this is my marketing team, right? So this is what I do for all of my teams. Essentially, I mark down their top 7 strengths and I put it on a chart. So for every team, I want to make sure that there's good balance, right? So in Strength Finder, there's 34 different themes, but there's 4 domains. Domains are execution, influence, relationship building, and strategic thinking, right? When I'm looking at these teams, I want to make sure that there's a good balance of everything. So for marketing, there's probably certain things that I care about more than others, right? For marketing, I care a lot about execution. I care a lot about strategy, right? Relationship building can be important because that kind of goes into about how much you like to work in a team. Influence, I care a little bit less, right? If anyone has influence, I probably want my manager to have some influence.
Right.
Sorry, can you scroll up? All right. So if you look, Steven, which is the manager, he actually has the most influence, right? So that's important. But for the other team members, execution is something that is really, really important to us. So if you look, this is just one team, that's our marketing team. But if you look at all of our teams, one of the common denominators is that we have a lot of high execution people, right? So again, this is how we built our organization. And depending on the type of leader you are, again, you might have very different, or your needs might be very, very different. Maybe you need more people in influence, or you need more people in strategy. The reason why we don't focus as much on strategy is because part of my strengths and part of my brother's strengths, we're very, very high strategy type people, right? So I don't need a lot of help of people helping me solve problems. That's actually what I enjoy. I love solving problems. I love starting projects, taking thought into action, and coming up with a plan. My weakness is actually follow through. My follow through is not very good. So I need a lot of people with high execution and high follow through. And when I create my team, especially the people that work around me, that's the type of personalities I look for.
That's pretty cool, man. That is amazing. You do this for all of your departments?
Yeah, every department. Everyone that is in our organization has gone through this process.
Very cool. Very cool. Eric, that was awesome.
Thank you, man.
I knew it would be.
Fun. Yeah.
I did hear
to talk to you and have a drink on a Thursday afternoon. That's almost unheard of for me. So
I poured myself like a triple, by the way. So.
Oh no, I killed mine too. I've actually had to pour twice.
I saw it. No, you poured like 3 times. I saw that.
It's only twice, man.
I think there was some echoing going on, so we're gonna have to. Mike was on. Our boy Mike Aguila. He was on.
Oh, was that Mike?
Yeah,
Mike
that was.
Aguila?
I thought that was your Michael.
Oh.
Guest lesson.
I think that was Michael. That's very Michael.
Milan wants you for a guest lesson on one of our video courses.
Sorry? What's a guest lesson?
Ah, you see, we've got some things in the works too, my friend.
All right, man.
We've got
excited.
I want to eventually, I'm not going to give too many details, but definitely we've got some video courses that we've got planned on. I don't want it to just be me. I'd like for maybe possibly get some other experts in other parts and I don't know. I just have like sort of a hub where people can learn.
I don't know how much value I'm going to hold with adjusting, but anything with HR or like building teams and personalities. I mean, I'm your man. Call me. I'd be more than happy to talk.
Oh, look at this. This is Michael again. Michael says, do you think education or experience is more important?
I think they're different. I think they're both important. One thing I will say is with conventional education, right? I think they teach to give you a good foundation of everything, right? But in life, that's not always necessary, right? So a lot of people say this, but they say, oh, there's no trade schools out there. There's no, specialized or a lot of specialized schooling. I'm actually a big fan of specialized schooling.
As am I.
Right? Like if you grew up, and again, if you don't enjoy school, right? But you're great with your hands and you have a mechanical mind, like you're losing time actually learning specific things that they're trying to push and force feed you in school, So I think both are important. I think education is extremely important, especially in a field that you are pushing yourself to, but I think experience, there's also certain things that, again, like you're going to have to experience yourself, right? And again, I do think it goes back to the personality. So in StrengthsFinder, learner is a theme, or it's a potential strength for some people. People that have that as a strength, again, they probably do like learning as opposed to the experience, right? I don't have learner on the top, right? I'd rather get to the answer the quickest possible. So experience, and the way that I am, experience, I learned way better than in schooling, right? Like I feel like a lot of my ability to grow came in my work environment, right? Not necessarily in my schooling. So again, I think it definitely depends on the person. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's a combination of both, and it depends on your personality of which one is more important for you, right? Because, for example, I know Michael very well, right? For Michael, education, I would say, is probably more important because, again, he's a learner, right? And he has intellection. Intellection, people enjoy talking about the stuff that they learn, right? So education is extremely important for him. But education could also be experience too, because I know he's learned a lot on the job, right? So I don't know. Again, probably me being low attention to detail, I don't think everything needs to be streamlined in a certain way. I think how we learn is very different in each individual person. And the goal as a manager is to figure out, hey, how do you learn? How does Vince learn? What am I going to do to get you to retain the information that I'm sharing? Some people want it written down and they want to read it. Some people like the conversation, like we're having, right? So honestly, you can't put anything in a box. We are so complex. We are so different that when we try to put people in a box, we're going to fail at least half of the people, right? So, Michael, I don't know if I answered your question.
I think you did.
But that's my feeling on, I guess, education versus experience.
Yeah, I think you did. I think you answered it very well. School was just never for me. God, I was never good at school. Just never good at it.
I like school.
I hated it. Every second of it.
Not for the learning part.
Right, exactly.
I like the social aspect of it. Like I always joke around and I always tell like my wife, I'm like, if I spend as much time studying as I did of trying to figuring out how to get out of class, like I probably would have been a lot better student.
I just could never figure out the studying part. Like I would study, but it's like I never found like my own like good style on how to do it, because I was that kid who would just study and I'd get a B and a C, and then the guy next to me was the guy who didn't study at all, didn't do anything, and would get an A. Like it was just always such a struggle for me. I always had the work ethic.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what I just said. Like, how do you learn? Like maybe you would study, but you're doing it in the wrong way. Right? For me, my struggle, my low attention to detail is like I hated homework. I never did homework. I always tested well, and I was always able to get pretty good scores on tests because they always did like a review session the day before, and I would just sit there, listen to the review session and test well, right? But I hated pop quizzes. I was never ready for pop quizzes, and I hated homework. So and part of it, again, looking at my personality, right? And you look at what my strengths are and what my weaknesses are. The reason why I didn't do well in school is because a lot of my weaknesses, and I didn't push towards my strengths as much as I needed to do to get, I guess, a specific grade, right? I did decently well, but especially compared to my brother and for my parents' standards, I was definitely not up to par, but their expectation was 4.2. So
holy crap. Yeah.
Definitely didn't do it. I graduated with 3.5 at my senior year. I felt like it was okay, but for my parents, I was probably like an F student.
I think going into senior year, I had like a 2.8 something. And in order for me to get my tennis scholarship, which I was already almost accepted. I had like a few schools that I was going to play for. They're like, you got to get it up to a 3.0 or else it's not going to happen. So senior year, when everybody had senioritis and nobody was doing, I was in the book studying like crazy, and I did it. I got it up to a 3.0. When it comes to work ethic, I never had a problem, but just memorization and studying and all that crap, it's just never my thing. Like, you put a test in front of me now, I'll fail it. Even if it's about public adjusting, I'll probably fail it just because I get all freaked out. I get all nervous. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
Yeah, but you don't have to take any tests anymore.
Thank God. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
All right, man. I think we're good. Anything else you want to say?
No. You can plug this maybe?
Oh, you said you didn't want to, but we can.
Well, so for all the listeners,
my sponsor. If you're still listening after an hour and 32 minutes,
I am we're his first sponsor, right? We're the first sponsor, but
only sponsor.
Only first and only. Nice. I got a big title then. But yeah, so to give you guys some context, during the pandemic in early March, we knew our apparel business was going to be hit pretty hard. So we're very good at import export. So we started import and exporting PPEs. So that's what Vince is talking about, port of self.
Personal.
We do have a 1-for-1 donation for every full priced product that you buy. We will be donating it to a charity. So we've been partnered with Get Us PPE, where they're run by mainly doctors and people in the healthcare industry. So it's a non-for-profit. So the majority of our donations are going there. But honestly, main thing is just getting everyone to stay safe. Making sure that we're doing everything we can to beat this. This is also something that, again, all of us are being affected by. So the more we can do this together, the quicker, and I feel like the easier it'll be for us to get past it.
It's so wild to talk to. Like, I've been interviewing for the bookkeeping position. I'm talking to people in India. I'm talking to people in the Philippines. And the conversation always starts the same way, dealing with COVID. And it's just weird because you're talking to people across the entire world and we're all dealing with the exact same thing. It's so funky.
Yeah. 2020 is one for the books, man.
Yeah.
It's definitely been tough, but that just means that 2021 is going to be a great year.
Yeah, so Eric and his family, they're the owner of Fortes Health, which is the sponsor, and that I always talk about in the beginning of every podcast. And the PPE stands for what? Personal Protective Equipment, yeah. It's got the mask and all that stuff. So if you put code Vince20, you get 20% off. So
you do.
And now I didn't know. I have to say that in the beginning, where the 1-for-1 thing, it goes to a nonprofit.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean, I knew that, but I didn't know that.
This PPE business has evolved. We're to a point where literally we understand that we're good at operations and we're helping the people that really need it get the product that they need. So a lot of our vendors and our clients aren't really end customers, but they've been hospitals, state government organizations and stuff like that.
Holy crap, there's more questions. We're never going to get out of here. Let's see here. It's probably Mike again. Awesome interview. Use code Vince20. No, it's no questions. Mikey, thank you, man. Thanks for watching, dude. Milan, thanks for sticking around, too. All right. I think we're good. All right.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
No, man. Thank you for coming on. Milan, I think we might have to fix his audio, right? Because I can't hear it. You sound fine to me, but I don't know. We'll see. But anyway,
really?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Let me.
People can't hear me?
No, they can hear you, but apparently there's like a little bit of an echo.
Oh.
Sounds fine to me. All right, let me see if I could hang up here, and then we'll talk. Hold on a second. Let me see. Eric, thank you for coming on. You're the man. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, hold on. How do I do this? End broadcast.